Welcome to War Bios, the podcast that delves into the intricacies of military history's most pivotal conflicts. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're embarking on an in-depth examination of one of the American Civil War's most complex and brutal battles, the Battle of the Wilderness. This clash of titans, fought from May 5 to 7, 1864, marked a turning point in the war between the Union and Confederacy, as two of history's most renowned generals, Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee, engaged in a struggle that would redefine the nature of warfare. The stage for this epic confrontation was set months in advance, with both armies maneuvering through the verdant landscapes of Virginia. The Wilderness, a dense, scrubby forest near the Rapidan River, stretched across the counties of Orange and Spotsylvania, its terrain a maze of twisting roads, dense thickets, and swampy clearings. This unforgiving landscape had borne witness to earlier battles, including the Chancellorsville Campaign in May 1863, where Confederate General Stonewall Jackson's flanking maneuver had led to a decisive victory for the South. As we explore the origins of the Battle of the Wilderness, it becomes clear that the events leading up to this pivotal conflict were marked by a series of strategic decisions and maneuvers. In the spring of 1864, Union forces under the command of General Ulysses S. Grant were poised to launch a major campaign against the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, led by General Robert E. Lee. Grant's plan, known as the Overland Campaign, aimed to wear down Lee's army through a series of battles and sieges, ultimately leading to the capture of Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy. As Grant's plan began to unfold in April 1864, both armies started their gradual movement towards each other. The Union Army of the Potomac, now under the command of General George Meade, crossed the Rapidan River on May 4, 1864, at Germanna Ford and Ely's Ford, with its columns stretching for miles along the winding roads and dusty trails of Virginia. Meanwhile, Lee's forces were positioned near Mine Run, some miles to the west, awaiting an opportunity to strike at the advancing enemy. The Wilderness itself presented a unique set of challenges for both armies. The dense thicket of trees and underbrush, interspersed with clearings and swampy areas, would negate many of the advantages typically enjoyed by larger or better-equipped forces. The terrain was so inhospitable that it would force Grant and Lee to adopt unconventional tactics, relying on quick decision-making and an ability to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. As the Union Army advanced, its soldiers encountered the remnants of earlier battles, including the scarred earth and abandoned trenches of the Chancellorsville Campaign. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation and foreboding, as both sides knew that the coming battle would be a clash of titans, with the fate of the nation hanging in the balance. The stage was set for a brutal and decisive conflict, one that would test the mettle of both the Union and Confederate forces. With the armies now converging on this unforgiving landscape, we find ourselves poised on the threshold of one of the most intense and pivotal battles in American military history. As the two armies clashed in the dense thicket of the Wilderness, the terrain proved to be a significant challenge, with its twisting roads, dense thickets, and swampy clearings negating many of the advantages typically enjoyed by larger or better-equipped forces. The battle began on May 5, 1864, as Union forces under General Gouverneur K. Warren's V Corps encountered Confederate troops near the Orange Turnpike, sparking a fierce and disorganized fight that would rage for 3 days. One of the most significant tactical innovations to emerge from this battle was the use of earthworks and field fortifications, which allowed both sides to establish strong defensive positions despite the unfavorable terrain. The Confederates, in particular, made effective use of these defenses, anchoring their flanks on the Orange Turnpike and the Brock Road, and repelling repeated Union assaults. The fighting was intense and brutal, with soldiers on both sides suffering heavy casualties as they clashed in the dense underbrush. The Union Army's attempts to outflank the Confederates were repeatedly thwarted by the difficult terrain and the tenacity of Lee's troops. Meanwhile, the Confederate Army's efforts to launch a decisive counterattack were hindered by the disorganization and confusion that characterized much of the battle. Despite these challenges, both armies demonstrated remarkable resilience and determination as they struggled to gain the upper hand in this unforgiving landscape. The Union Army's artillery played a significant role in the battle, with guns deployed along the Orange Turnpike and the Brock Road, pounding Confederate positions and helping to break up their attacks. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the wilderness was not just a physical terrain, but also a psychological one, where the stresses of combat and the uncertainty of the outcome took a heavy toll on soldiers and commanders alike. The thick smoke from the guns and the burning underbrush created a surreal atmosphere, with visibility reduced to just a few feet and the sounds of war echoing through the forest like a cacophony of chaos. The turning point of the battle came on May 6, 1864, when Union forces under General Winfield S. Hancock's II Corps launched a decisive assault against the Confederate positions along the Brock Road, breaking through the enemy lines and sending Lee's troops reeling. However, the Confederates were able to regroup and establish a new defensive line, which the Union Army was ultimately unable to breach. As the battle drew to a close on May 7, 1864, it was clear that neither side had achieved a decisive victory, but the Union Army had gained a strategic advantage, having forced Lee's army to retreat towards Richmond. The Battle of the Wilderness marked a significant shift in the war, as both armies began to adopt more defensive tactics, and the conflict became increasingly bogged down in a series of bloody and inconclusive battles. The battle may not have been a decisive Union victory, but it marked an important turning point in the conflict, as Grant's army continued its relentless push towards Richmond and Lee's army struggled to maintain its defensive positions. As the Union Army continued its relentless push towards Richmond, General Robert E. Lee's army struggled to maintain its defensive positions. The Confederates had suffered heavy casualties during the Battle of the Wilderness, with estimates suggesting that they lost between 7,000 to 8,000 men. Despite these losses, Lee's army remained a formidable force, and the Union Army would have to contend with them for many months to come. The aftermath of the battle saw both armies engaged in a series of skirmishes and battles as they maneuvered for position around Richmond. The Union Army's advance was slow and laborious, as they encountered strong Confederate defenses at every turn. The Confederates had established a series of earthworks and fortifications along the roads leading to Richmond, which made it difficult for the Union Army to make progress. One of the most significant consequences of the Battle of the Wilderness was the impact it had on the soldiers involved. The battle had been intense and brutal, with soldiers on both sides suffering heavy casualties as they clashed in the dense underbrush. Many soldiers were left with physical and emotional scars that would last a lifetime, and the experience of fighting in the wilderness would stay with them forever. The Battle of the Wilderness also had a significant impact on the civilians living in the area. The battle had been fought in a densely populated region, and many civilians had been caught up in the fighting. Homes and buildings had been destroyed, and many people had been left without shelter or food. The aftermath of the battle saw a massive influx of refugees fleeing the area, seeking safety and security elsewhere. As we look back on the Battle of the Wilderness, it is clear that it marked a significant turning point in the war. The Union Army's advance towards Richmond would continue, but it would be slow and laborious, with many more battles to come. The Confederacy would eventually fall, but not before many more lives had been lost. The legacy of the Battle of the Wilderness can still be seen today. The battlefield is now a national park, where visitors can come to learn about and commemorate the soldiers who fought and died there. The battle also marked a significant shift in the way that war was fought, with the introduction of new tactics and technologies that would go on to shape the course of modern warfare. In conclusion, the Battle of the Wilderness was a pivotal conflict that had far-reaching consequences for both the Union and Confederate armies. It marked a significant turning point in the war, as both armies began to adopt more defensive tactics, and the conflict became increasingly bogged down in a series of bloody and inconclusive battles. The legacy of the battle can still be seen today, and it remains an important part of American military history. As we reflect on the significance of the Battle of the Wilderness, we are reminded that war is not just about winning or losing, but about the human cost and the impact it has on individuals and society as a whole. The story of the Battle of the Wilderness is a powerful reminder of the importance of understanding and learning from history so that we can work towards creating a more peaceful and just world for all. The story of the Battle of the Wilderness may be over, but its significance continues to resonate to this day, serving as a reminder of the enduring power of courage, sacrifice, and determination in the face of overwhelming adversity. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.